podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
No question about that. It's supported by you, our listeners, through patreon.com/NQAT pod, where you can get access to our weekly ad-free bonus episode talking about football around the Premier League and Europe. Alrighty, well, that was fun, wasn't it, Tom? Newcastle 1, United 1. Bit of shambles.
Yeah, fun isn't the word that I would use to describe it. It was very emotional in a angry sense. I was getting very angry in that first half. And when I saw Gary Neville, I don't know if you saw Gary Neville at half time, but he was looking exactly like me. He was looking like, I am very angry, but I'm trying not to release that anger right now. That was how I felt, and then maybe got a bit like that in the second half a little bit too.
Yeah, I mean, a range of emotions with this one, mostly just kind of bemused. But anyway, before we get into it, I thought we should probably introduce you, shouldn't we? Because there's a random Tom join the show.
Yeah, I know, because I am the left field choice of these three legends. I feel like the classic Andy Teddy quite really recommended by, what is it? Recommended by a legend who... no, a technicality when a legend who recommended you.
got the job on technicality.
The legend who recommended you. The legend being Paul. I'm kind of Paul's recommendation, really. Me and him are good friends. And yeah, I've been a United fan for basically since the day I was born, because I was indoctrinated by my father. But I've never really written about United online. I haven't ever written about United online. I'm a football writer. I've been writing for about 11 years for a few big publications, but I mostly write on Eastern European and Hungarian football. I am British and I grew up over here in England, but I was kind of indoctrinated again by my grandfather this time to be very much into Hungarian football and Hungarian society. And he came over to England in the revolution in the 50s for the history fans out there. And yeah, when I was growing up, I spent a lot of time with him. I was very close to him. And when he died, I kind of took on the mantle of the Hungarianism, basically. And I got really, really into it and built up a following and became more obsessed and obsessed. And I've covered Hungary for a few big publications, like I say, for The Guardian, ESPN, Independent and stuff. And we have our own podcast. But to be able to talk about United on a consistent basis is really exciting for me. And I'm, pretty grateful to you for giving me the chance.
Great to have you here.
Yeah, it's really good fun.
Yeah, I've been listening to your football, your podcast on Hungarian football. It's good stuff. You know, I mean, not that I follow Hungarian football. I think I made one joke on Twitter about Ferencváros winning the title when Liverpool had stormed away with it. Congratulating them on because I was like not going to talk about Liverpool. But anyway. Yeah, good to have you here. I mean, at least we've got some football to talk about because I had Wayne on last week and there wasn't any games. Yeah. I'm not sure this was very good. What were your thoughts on the lineup? Because I looked at that, sort of ran in, thought, okay, didn't know that Lindelof had COVID, which is why he was out. And kind of, I was wondering whether Varane had come in for the right centre back, but. I guess there weren't many other options.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one for me, apart from maybe Varane coming in, I thought Rashford for Sancho would have been my preferred choice. I don't really know what Rashford's kind of shown to be the man to go in ahead of Sancho. And I know Sancho has not been amazing since coming to us, but I thought he was a Rangnick player, actually. I thought Rangnick could really like what he gets from Sancho, and I thought maybe he'd try and become his the teacher's pet in a way, because I thought he'd probably be the United player to get Rangnick most. So I was a little bit surprised with that, maybe just rotation or whatever it was, the reason for that. But I think apart from that, I couldn't really argue, have any qualms with the rest of the lineup. And I was quite excited to see Varane in the lineup as well. But I think that excitement dissipated quite quickly.
Yeah, I mean, how many minutes did it take for him to turn into an actually comedy of a defender. Yeah, I mean, well, I'm going to blame that on him being a bit rusty.
He looked rusty.
The first huge mistake, led to Newcastle's goal. But yeah, on the lineup, I tend to agree with you on Sancho. I thought he'd looked reasonably bright in the last couple of games before the enforced break. And Rashford's been out. So I mean, I don't want to jump on the pylon because there's enough of that online, but he's been out of sorts for an awful long time now, Rashford. And, I guess they're just trying to get him game time, but sticking him out on the right, Bruno on the left, that first half, it just felt imbalanced and neither Fred or McTominay could get the ball forward. So United were just all over the place and then allowing Newcastle to break at will, and it caused a lot of problems.
Yeah. I know it's Rangnick's preferred style and it's the preferred style at most of the Red Bull system. But I mean, like, Red Bull clubs are very flexible with the way that they play, and like at Salzburg and Leipzig, and Rangnick has been quite flexible in the past. So I know it's very, very early days. I'm not going to criticize him at all at this stage, but to play that system, it just doesn't look like it's going to suit our players and the players that we have. And it showed again today that we are struggling with it, both in an attacking sense and in a defensive sense. Because like you say, Newcastle just broke at will, and there were no patterns to our play, especially in the first half. In the second, it was a little bit more noticeable. Kind of the fullbacks were pushed up really, really high. The centre half kind of could come through the middle. But I think time will tell with this. Gary Neville, again, before the game, was kind of talking about, he was thinking, it might be a 4-2-3-1 or something, or a 4-3-3. But it seems like he might persist with it a little bit. And like I said, I'm not going to jump on Rangnick's back at all, but it's interesting that he is kind of sticking to this style at the moment.
Yeah. I thought it was really clear after, I can't remember which game now, maybe the Norwich game, when he talked about it, about the need for more control in midfield. And I mean, it's true, McFred in there is no control. So he's pushing players inside to try and crowd out the centre of midfield. The trade-off there is it's a system that you can defend against. You just keep narrow, don't you? And it just relies on Dalot and Telles in this case getting forward down the wings. And in the second half when Bruno dropped back into midfield, I could kind of understand that, because at least you get some progressive passing. I mean, it's a risk, isn't it? Because he gives the ball away, and also a risk because he's United's most creative player. And the further away he is from the attackers, then the fewer big chances he's going to create. And he still creates, even though he's probably had a quieter season than last season, he still creates a lot of big chances.
Yeah, and I mean, in a defensive sense as well, like his lack of discipline is a problem if you're playing him in a 2, and then especially when Matic comes on, is Bruno kind of playing in a 1.5? Or what? Like,
I know. I saw that. I was kind of, geez.
I didn't really.
I mean, talk about a soft underbelly of a midfield. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But like you say, from a on the ball perspective, it did make sense, and I think it did help a little bit. And you talk about kind of relying on Telles and Dalot in those positions, and that was where kind of our two biggest chances actually came from in this game. Like, Telles played that great ball over to Cavani. I think a sharper Cavani would have scored that one. We kind of took it with his left. It looked like he should have taken it with his right. And obviously the goal came from that great ball in from Dalot to Cavani, and you would have never got that with Wan-Bissaka. So I'm quite happy with the fullbacks at the moment. Like, our kind of two. Yeah,
I think they both kind of earned their place, haven't they? Yeah. I'm especially Dalot. Dalot? I never.
My Portuguese is not good.
I don't know either. I think Jose might have called him Dalot. Okay. So yeah, that's probably right. He's definitely earned a chance. Mm-hmm. Or Wan-Bissaka didn't earn the undroppable status that he appeared to have. So I mean, especially after his defending went this season, and then on the other side, Telles. Shaw's just had this post Euro 2020 hangover for the whole season, and then got himself concussed. Yeah.
Like so many England players, to be honest. Like, there's so many England players that's happened to. They're just completely dropped off.
Bar
Declan Rice, I think.
Yeah. United could really do with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, he'd be the perfect. There was one point I was at the opinion, and this is probably off-putting to basically anyone who listens to this, but I was of the opinion that McTominay was as good as Rice. But then this season, I have revised that opinion and tried to erase it all from the internet where I maybe spouted that awful opinion.
Yeah, well, I know. I think it was on the Talk of the Devils podcast. Andy Mitten said something along the lines of "never be definitive in any opinions."
Yep.
The thing he'd learned was to never be definitive in any opinions, and that's fine, but it can be less interesting that way. And I don't know. I've learned from painful experience never to be definitive in opinions, because I've done that a few times. And if it's spoken word or written, it lives forever.
It does live forever,
internet,
and people will find it.
You forget it. But, for sure. Anyway, McTominay is a strange player because when he came into the side a few years back, when he was manager's player of the season, I just thought the thing that he really missed was some progression in his passing. If he could he's got the energy, he's not a natural defender, but he can do it. And if he could only pass the ball better, he would be the kind of all-rounder that you would need. And there were times where I thought he was bringing that to his game, but it just seems to have regressed. And he just doesn't have the confidence. And sometimes I even feel like he kind of deliberately hides himself. He puts himself in positions on the pitch where he's just not in a passing lane. And he's smart enough to know that. And I just don't think he wants the ball.
I feel like you could be talking about almost any player that played today by saying that, because our passing today was so bad. It was so bad, especially in the first half. And they do this. We've got so many hiders. And Gary Neville again, I keep bringing Gary Neville up. I'm not going to do this every week, promise. But he was talking at half time. We just got so many winches as well. He's calling us the winch club or whatever. We have, like, that first half, it looked like no one had been practicing passing and just been practicing like moaning at each other. And
Ronaldo especially, he was really losing
it. Like that every.
So there was one stage in the second half, I think, where he took a swing and missed.
That was bad.
And fortunately, he missed because it was a real wild,
it was like a
wild go at it. And he got a yellow card for it, which was probably unlucky in a sense because he didn't actually touch the fella. But along with the whinging, the pointing, the gesticulating, the arm flapping, which he's very good at arm flapping, world-class flapper. He really seemed to be losing it. And we know Bruno likes to whinge as well, and it kind of seems to percolate throughout the side. And perhaps more leadership, less whinging would be good. And I don't know whether Rangnick will be able to work this one out. It's, whether the personality issues within the dressing room are too much, and that's part of the culture of that Solskjaer built or left.
He was amazing that for all of Ollie's faults, and there were many, his dressing room management was impeccable. Not this season, but before this season, it was impeccable. And now we just don't look like a collective in terms of tactical sense and also personality sense. They just look like lads who've just been found on a Sunday morning and you just chucked onto the pitch with no training. And that's kind of just been, obviously, it was a downfall of Ollie, but I think it's going to be really tough for Rangnick to turn this around. And obviously he hasn't had the massive experience of being a massive club. His biggest club he was at was Schalke, and he took them over halfway through his season. I think he ended up finishing runners up to Bayern Munich. So he's obviously got a little bit of form, but Schalke's not comparable to Man United. So it's very tough from a tactical perspective to come in halfway through the season when the team have no attacking pattern to them and haven't since Van Gaal's left. Probably had a very, very boring pattern of football. And now he's got to also rescue the personality of the squad, which is in a collective mess.
It's a huge challenge for him. I mean, he obviously has a sense of what he wants to create in terms of the identity, and whether that's the Red Bull identity or the Rangnick one, or some blend of that. I can't fault him for wanting that, because it was clear that was missing. And, as you say, both Mourinho and Solskjaer were sort of, hey, lads, go out and play. And Mourinho focused on the defensive side of the coaching, and Solskjaer seemed to focus on neither the attacking or the defensive side of the coaching, which was, minor fault. Rangnick at least has a clear idea, and so that's great. It's just he's been dropped in, he's going to try and apply it really quickly, and he's not had a lot of time, and he won't get a lot of time. Carrington was closed for a week, so this 16 days without playing, we're not it's not really time he's been able to focus on anything. There's I think there's the headline figure was 19 COVID cases throughout the club. No one would say for obvious reasons who, and then Lindelof on top of that. And, so there's a lot of caveats there in terms of what he's had to work with. There are a couple of midweeks before the Champions League kicks off again in mid-February, but there's the Brighton and Brentford game to squeeze in somewhere. Whether they'll be able to do that, I don't know. So he's not going to get a lot of time. And I think you said it before we started recording, but it was true of Tuchel last season. I mean, he had a lot of success in the end, but it didn't come immediately. It wasn't, hey, he turns up and you can immediately see what the pattern of the style was. I mean, he focused on just getting the defence right, which Rangnick seems to have focused on something different, which was, trying to create a structure in midfield that United can get a foothold in games. Yeah. And today didn't really have a foothold. I mean, a lot of possession. I mean, I think it's well over 60% possession, but 70% possession, just looking at it here. But it's what you do with that counts. And given the kind of structure of, how United played in that first half, created hardly anything, a bit more in the second, but there was a bit of better balance to it, I think, after Cavani and Sancho came on. So he's got a rambly way of saying he's got a really hard job on here, and there's no obvious solutions. And I guess we've all got opinions that we flout on Twitter about this one. Yeah, we've all got an easy fix, haven't we? But the truth is there isn't.
Yeah, and it's kind of it feels like the first few, like the building blocks of a film, like the first shots of a film, because this is supposed to be the United, well, seemingly going to be the United way for a very long time. If kind of what we're led to believe that Rangnick's going to take over as this, whether they're talking about consultant at the moment, but you're hoping it's going to be a director of football and he's going to be kind of given all this power to change the bureaucratic and political Man United from their old ways. But he needs to get the results to have that buy-in, not only from the bureaucrats at United and all the people above him, but also from the fans as well, because are the fans really going to be massively behind him if this kind of season just tods along to be a very, very average season? Obviously, I'm talking hypothetically massive in here, and it's very, very early days, and I'm not going to jump to any conclusions, but I'm hoping that this is the new United, because I got really excited when we had Rangnick, and it felt like a really, really smart move for United, which, if you think throughout the time since Woodward's been there, we've not made very, very many smart moves at all. You probably count them on one hand. And this felt like a very, very significant and modern choice. And I'm kind of desperate for it to work, to be honest, because it feels like it could be the start of a new United. Because we have obviously regressed massively and become a bit of a joke to all the clubs, whereas it seems like it could be. I'm desperate for it to work as well.
Yeah. And as much as today was a bit of a shambles and the system felt like a mess, which is partly down to Rangnick and partly down to the players and partly down to the lack of coaching time, I imagine. I absolutely was excited. United went from being the baddies to being a hipster club, finally. Yes. Not quite, but he's even if he's not worked at a super club before, Rangnick, he's got an impressive CV in what he's done in terms of building teams and clubs, whether in a sort of more management position and coaching position or a sort of director of football position. So, I just think that all augurs well for, one, I imagine the sort of proxy war between Arnold and Woodward over who is having power at the club has been won by Arnold. He is the man taking over, and he at least. So, the word on the street is that he is prepared to put people who are specialists in specialist positions, which is what Ed Woodward was never prepared to do in his 8 years as
revolutionary idea, really.
Vice chairman. I know, it's shocking, isn't it? Invented by Henry Ford. So it's I mean, and if he's prepared to do that, and he's prepared to have Rangnick either as a coach or a director of football or somewhere in between, who knows? Great. It augurs well for a more positive future, a club that has got these vast resources, and if only they'd apply them in a smart way, then they're going to get more out of it. And that's the thing I never understood about the Glazers. For all their sort of penny pinching in early years, they've spent huge amounts of money, or the club has spent huge amounts of money, which they have signed off on since Ferguson left. £1 billion, something like that. And so much of that wasted just through dumb decision making. So if this is the club finally getting smart, then it bodes well for the future. The problem is, of course, that there's an immediate need, and there's one place in the Champions League and 4 clubs fighting for it. It seems anyway. United, Arsenal, Tottenham, West Ham. Maybe there's another comes in there, but immediate results and performances are also needed, and that's just the really hard thing to pull out.
It's a good point about the Glazers as well, because I'm a big Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, and for years and years, Tampa Bay have just been dreadful, pretty much since I've been supporting them. Actually, for the first couple of years, we actually won the Super Bowl. I say we actually won the Super Bowl.
You've been indoctrinated.
Yeah, I've been indoctrinated. So that was my own fault. I can't blame any family members for that. But it was the same way at Tampa Bay. They were just ran terribly. And then obviously 2 years ago, they signed Tom Brady. And then Glaze, I think it's Joel. I can't remember who it is. Who's the kind of the main guy for Tampa Bay. Right. I think it might be. I think it is Joel as well. And he was saying, "Oh yeah, as a Glazer family, we're winners." And I'm thinking, I've never seen this at United, like this mentality. And I don't know if there's maybe been a mentality switch at that club, because they have been turned into like a force, and Tom Brady has obviously led that to them becoming this super team essentially in the league. And Tampa Bay have never had that, even when they won the Super Bowl. It was kind of out of nowhere, whereas now they're being turned into a proper club. And I'm hoping that maybe that success rubs off on the Glazers a little bit, and it maybe changes their mind. I mean, obviously, I'm no Glazer fan at all, but I mean, we're stuck with them, so it would be nice if they actually maybe change their mentality a little bit, and we were like, actually, why don't we actually do this properly and look at other clubs and maybe get the right people in, because it isn't a revolutionary idea. And if people like us and people on Twitter, and I mean, it's smart people on Twitter are pointing out these things, like why don't we get a director of football in who actually knows the game, I think they would be able to sort it out, because they have a lot of money and they have a lot of access to intelligent people. Come on, it's not that difficult.
It's the bonkers thing about United that, all these resources, just so much money available, and because of the commercial operation, even if that bit's, getting into a different conversation, even if that bit's flat or in fact declining in some sense over the last 5-6 years, there's still lots and lots of money that can be applied to this. They can still take their dividends out, and United can be successful if you only structure the club in the way that every other elite club in Europe does it. And I mean, I guess that brings the conversation full circle, because that is the thing that Rangnick has been so successful at. And I find him a really interesting personality, because he said in the press conference, was it the one for this game or the one before that he wants to be a coach. He sees himself as a coach, and that's what he wants to do. But there's been a lot of sort of commentary about Rangnick actually not dealing that well with the pressure, and that was one of the reasons why he never really kind of consistently coached over the last 10 years. I mean, I think he's had 2 seasons as a full-time coach in the last 10, and perhaps didn't ever make that leap to one of the elite clubs or take over Bayern, which is the kind of natural step if you're the best coach in the country. And despite having all these disciples, he never actually became that sort of elite manager. And we'll see where he lies, whether he's coaching and which you kind of feel. You look at this team and you go, especially under Solskjaer, they need that, and it's just like a complete 180, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that again, coming back to the theme, it's going to take time.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to also the problems of the structure of a football club when you're hopping from manager to manager. This these teething problems are going to be big teething problems. They're going to take weeks and months to sort out, because you're hopping from a manager in Ollie, who obviously, like I said, he was good at dressing room atmosphere management, if that even is a thing, but he would seem to be good at it anyway.
Vibes.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. As Jurgen Paul always used to say, he is great at vibes, but I feel like he doesn't have he obviously doesn't have the tactical nous to be an elite manager. And then you jump to a complete, almost like a theorist in many respects, like a Bielsa, because he has obviously these grandiose ideas, and obviously his type of football and his style of football is as impactful as Bielsa's style of football has been on European football, maybe even more so, to be honest. Well, maybe that's going a bit far, but it's up there, or at least level. And to go from that switch from Ollie to that is huge, and it's going to take ages. But it's also going to be very interesting to see a little bit. I find the Bielsa comparison quite good. I know Bielsa obviously is a coach first and foremost, but he does take the kind of the smaller jobs, and he likes a project. Whereas this project for Rangnick is a lot different to any kind of project he's ever undertaken. And it's going to be very exciting to see how it turns out, if it does turn out in the right way. But
right, yeah. I mean, it's certainly a punt by the club. Anyway, I mean, we saw some of it in the second half, didn't we? Because he immediately made that change, pulled off Fred, who was just dreadful. I mean, I know it's a running theme with Fred, but the man can't play a 5-yard pass. 5-yard sidewards pass, which is his pass of choice. Still can't get that one right. I mean, the energy, all very good. Runs around, great. But anyway, pulled him off, dropped Bruno into D position, and put Rashford sort of left, and Sancho right. When did Cavani come on? A bit later in the season.
Half time as well.
Half time.
I thought, was he going to take Ronaldo off in at half time? Ball move, but he didn't. Obviously.
Right, Greenwood went off at half time. Yeah. So it created a bit more balance, didn't it? And especially with Cavani, we were talking earlier about Ronaldo and his movement, and it's just nothing night and day compared to Cavani, who again we haven't seen enough of this season because of injuries, because of going home, because of whatever. But just his movement made the goal. As much as Bruno's crossfield pass created the space and Dalot's excellent pull back, I mean, it's Cavani's sort of J-shaped run that's got him there, 2 or 3 yards of space there.
I love his personality as well. Like I kind of expected him to, when he first came, I kind of feel like every game we get that same hunger from him. But I kind of expected when we first signed him, and obviously everyone was calling him more panic signing and all that kind of thing. I kind of expected him to just be flipped in and out of games and not really be hungry for it. But his personality is amazing. And like we saw today, he's been out with injury problems. He's gone back home, and there's obviously talk about leaving in January. Will leave at the end of the year. But every game he gives for us, he gives 100%, and it's a much more than you can kind of label with some of the other players. And he's a winner, and United kind of lack a lot of winners like that. And I think even like comparing to Ronaldo, and maybe it's unfair to kick Ronaldo because he has scored a lot of goals this season. But okay, it's a different conversation entirely. But just comparing like their personalities today, Cavani comes on, he's involved in everything. His movement's amazing, like you say. He has 3 big chances, and probably a sharper Cavani maybe scores a hat-trick today and wins the game for us. But his hunger and he's shouting at players and encouraging players. And I just love that personality. And I think Sancho showed a little bit of that personality when he came on as well. And I think if we had more of that, I know this kind of sounds very Sam Allardyce and wishy-washy, but it does go a long way in football to have that kind of mentality and not kind of look like the world's against you, and kind of have that bite and just bite down on your lip a little bit. And Cavani has that in abundance to me, and that's why I love him. And I think that's why United fans love him as well.
Fully
and maybe
agree.
Want to see more of him.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a real shame he's just not fit often enough, and seems to take a while to come back from injuries. Otherwise, we'd have. I think we might have seen something different from United this season. But look, there's no whinging, no flappy arms. Just gets on with it. Still loves playing, doesn't he? You can see from the reaction when he scores that he as much as there's been talk about him potentially leaving, and he might want to leave, and he's obviously out of contract in the summer. I'd be amazed if he signs a new one. He's still giving everything. So yeah, United paid a lot. Didn't pay anything in the fee, but paid a lot in agents' fees, and he's on a mega salary. So there was a real cost to it. But on the pitch, huge bonus if he's there. And I think for all the goals Ronaldo scored, and I don't want to sound like either a broken record or Jonathan Wilson here, he causes so many problems tactically for United that just another option is good. And if United are going to play two up front in this system, then Cavani has the movement that Ronaldo probably doesn't. And we saw some of that in the second half. And, obviously he's got the goal. And as you say, definitely the one at the far post, I think probably should have scored. Very pundits word that one. But it's not a high XG chance. But, one that you kind of think a bit sharper. And, huge bonus for him to be back, I think.
Yeah, it's weird with that Will with the left foot as well, because it probably doesn't come up on XG as probably it would have done if he would have just gone with his right foot, which I think was probably the better choice there. But I think it's probably just a little bit of sharpness. And like you say about Ronaldo, he is a problem because he is scoring goals and he feels like he's undroppable. I mean, his personality means it's undroppable, and his legendary status means he is pretty much undroppable. And you wonder how much of a personality an effect on the dressing room it would have if Ronaldo was dropped and he'd kick up a fuss, and that is obviously a massive problem with signing Ronaldo in the first place, obviously. But the fact he's still scoring goals, and you think with 20 minutes today, he's barely had the kick in the second half. But do we take Ronaldo off? Because, if a ball's going to go into the box, he scores. Like, it's just Ronaldo. But
35 touches, 29 passes, 22 of them successfully. Just wasn't involved that much. And there were times when Paul and I used to joke about this. I think there was one game in which Robin van Persie had 16 touches in one game. We're like, okay, So, but Ronaldo's got to have those touches, got to be crucial ones. And today there just wasn't anything. And that's not all his fault, because there's just nothing from central midfield, and there's nothing Rangnick can do about that unless United dip into the transfer window this January, and who knows whether that's going to be signed off on or not. But he's tried something today in moving Bruno back into midfield that is interesting, I think.
It is interesting.
And it had an effect on United.
It is interesting. It kind of makes me think, is that what he kind of sees for Pogba when he comes back and playing in that deep role as a two? Because Pogba would be able to play that role, obviously, effectively. You'd imagine it bring the same problems as Bruno does, especially with his lack of discipline in that too. But then it would also allow Bruno to play a bit further forward. But then in this 4-2-2-2, where do you kind of play Bruno? Do you maybe play Bruno as part of the two up top and maybe kind of let him float around in that position behind the striker, or playing him on the left or right?
Be better than playing out on the left-hand side. Mm. Yeah, it is. Pogba's going to be interesting. He's back in training this week, and so maybe a couple of weeks we'll see him on the pitch again. And the part of me wondered whether we'd ever see him again, and whether United would try to take a fee in January. I think with COVID going around, it's just not worth it, and because you can get devastated, and they may need the player. I always look at Pogba, and I know that if you delve into the world of social media, it's just almost impossible to have a conversation about him. But I look at Pogba, and I see him playing for France, and just how good he can be. He was great. Nations League semi-final and final. He was just absolutely magnificent. And he played with Conte in one of those games, and Tchouaméni in the other. And there he had players that are doing the defensive work for him. But it's not like he's surrounded with players. Griezmann played at 10 there. And so, he can clearly do it. There was a theory, I think, I can't remember who put this together, but it was a piece in The Athletic suggesting maybe the pace of the game in the Premier League's too much for him. I just don't know if I buy that one either. He's pretty press resistant.
Yeah.
So anyway, it'll be interesting to see where Rangnick uses him, because he will be able to get a progressive passer into central midfield. And in a game like today's, when you just definitely didn't need McFred when you have 70% of the ball, it's just, that's the kind of game you'd want him in the team to bring balance to the team.
And incisive passing and all that kind of great stuff that Paul Pogba does bring, but an enigma.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on Newcastle? Because I felt we'd be more negative about it, but we've dived off into other stuff.
I think that's an avoidance tactic.
This was shit, wasn't it?
I think Paul, and maybe his psychotherapy would probably call that avoidance, avoiding the actual emotion.
Yeah.
There, probably. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I didn't really think Varane was very good. Well, he wasn't. Harry Maguire and Varane were both absolutely terrible. And it makes me fearful that Real Madrid got rid of Varane because he was on that. I can't get that out of my head. But
I hope not. I mean, he's just got to stay fit.
But yeah, he was not good today. And Harry Maguire, San Maximin had them both on. Well, it wasn't just toast. It was with all the trimmings and everything. It was embarrassing. Like, it really was. It just, like, Maguire was just all over the place. So bad.
Yes. Now, normally Varane is better in those 1v1 defensive situations. Harry Maguire is not.
Nope.
He's just not. So I'm going to put that down to fitness, since he's been out for a little while, Varane, and sort of just chucked into. I wonder whether if Lindelof hadn't caught COVID, whether he'd have started today or not.
He just didn't look sharp on the ball either, and he's usually silky smooth in possession of the ball, and it was his first touch was dessert, and then his passing was dessert, and he looked a little bit shaky. I think a lot of the players just didn't look sharp today, and I'm hoping that is a sharpness thing more than just their lack of ability, because first touches, passing, simple things was just all over the place. And like I said, it wasn't just Varane, it was McFred in midfield, Rashford, even Sancho sometimes when he came on, and it was just dire. It's probably not even going too far, to be honest. It was really, really bad. Really, really bad.
I was just going to say, it leaves United on 28 points, the same as West Ham, played a game less. Spurs on 29, have only played 16 games. Arsenal 35, played 2 more games. So, I mean, it's looking 7 points. You'd rather have the points in the bag, wouldn't you? I know that's a cliche, than the games in hand. But for sure, in COVID times, when you don't know what's going to happen with the fixtures, it could be playing twice in 48 hours and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's not looking good in our search for the 4th place trophy. But anyway, I guess that stops. We finish with Newcastle, and then a few interesting things happened during the week that were away from the actual game. Ralph Rangnick came out and confirmed the story that had been around a couple of weeks ago about Antony Martial wanting out. Said because Rangnick had denied it initially, and then said, they'd had a long conversation, and he said, Martial said that after 7 seasons at the club, he wants to try something else, which is kind of interesting. I wonder if he wants to try taking a cut on his 200 grand a week wages, which will, I don't know who's going to pick those up.
I think he's going to have to if he's going to get a move. It's really interesting with Martial, because, I mean, I'd heard of him before he came to United, obviously, but I never really thought he was this amazing player waiting to be unlocked for whatever price we paid. And obviously he came with a lot of hate, well, not hate, but a lot of tabloid rubbish about him. And obviously it's obviously in the song, but he hit the ground running, and it was at the time when Memphis came with a lot of fanfare. It was kind of Martial kind of slipped under the radar, and Memphis came off the back of that 2014 World Cup, and he was going to be Van Gaal's boy and blah, blah, blah. And Martial just came in and showed him up. And that has been not the best of Martial, because we've obviously seen glints and quality. And I don't want to argue with Martial FC on Twitter about this, but it's just not worked for him. And I think he just has to move. I think maybe just a refresher for his own sanity and his own career is probably needed, because it's just not worked for me. United, like so many players, like it's not a slight on him. It's a very difficult club to make it. United is, and it's obviously you've seen someone like Angel Di Maria, and he's gone on to better things. Falcao refound himself when he left United. Like it's been really frustrating for me from United's fans' perspective, but I think he's just got to go. And the thing is, I just don't. It's going to be really tough to move him on, because we are at this point where all the super clubs have got these players, fringe players, on massive wages, and no one in Europe can afford him. Yeah. Who's going to buy him in England? Maybe Newcastle?
I think United are going to end up doing what they did with Alexis Sanchez, and they're going to have to subsidise the wages, and they're not going to get a big fee, or they won't get a fee. It'll be a loan with a hope that if they sign off on this, which might not, given COVID and all of that. But if the club signs off on it, it'll be a loan and with a small loan fee and probably an option, not an obligation to buy. And the club won't be recouping the kind of fee they've paid. I mean, because I think with all the add-ons, because of the games he's played, they've spent over 60 million euros on him so far, plus the wages, and he's on this huge contract. And yeah, I guess I count myself as a semi-Martial fan, right? Because it's the kind of it's the bias. You remember the highlights and whatever's most recent, and so I remember the highlights. Most recent, I've barely seen it, right? But there have been some special moments from him, but it's so rare. He's had 2 good seasons in those 6.5. The season before last, when he was pretty good, and his first season, and that's it, I think. And the evidence is pretty overwhelming now that he's just not going to make it at United. And even if United will need a striker at some point, because Cavani's going to go in the summer, Ronaldo is knocking on, he's 37 soon, isn't he? Yeah.
United have just got this thing as well. Like, they're awful at buying and selling players. Like, it's another just thing of the Glazers. Like, we rarely ever get huge fees for players. I mean, it's not my money, so I'm not that bothered. But it is just terrible, because we put these fringe players on huge wages, and then we try and offload them, and it just makes no sense to me. Again, like, Liverpool get these huge fees for Jordan Ibe and Dominic Solanke, and we can't even ship off Alexis Sanchez.
No, I mean, this is it's coming back to our previous conversation about director of football. That's their job. Yeah. That's their job. Liverpool's a good example of buying and selling pretty smartly for the most part. Real Madrid hardly spent any money in the last 3 years and just keep getting huge fees for fringe players. And a lot of that is about planning. It's about understanding your value in the market. It's about having the right connections, and it's about someone having that kind of holistic view. And it just haven't. Ed Woodward's been in charge. I mean, Ed Woodward's in charge for another, as we record, 4 days. Until he slips off into the night and his highly paid consultancy position.
Consultancy.
And I just hope and pray that this is the start of an era when we can do something sensible. Maybe Murtaugh and Judge and Arnold will magic up a buyer for Martial and get a huge fee for him.
Yeah, and like I say, it is hard for Martial to succeed at this club, because you're going from Van Gaal, who plays a very, very certain style of football, who has a very interesting worldview and personality, and then you go to Mourinho, who you can't please. I don't know if you like created a career for his son, or if you sorted out a life for his son, he still probably wouldn't like you. You've got Ole Solskjaer, who you could kill his son and it'd still like you. And now you've got Ralph Rangnick. It's very, very difficult for a footballer to kind of adapt to all those different situations, the personalities and the tactical nous and the tactical side of it. And if you think about United players who have actually been able to do that, who've actually been able to ride from manager to manager, I mean, you count in not many at all. I mean, even David De Gea wasn't even one of them.
Phil Jones, David De Gea. David De Gea has been under every manager.
But as in, he's not kind of performed under every manager. Even he had a time where he slipped under.
Yeah, Phil Jones has produced the same performance under every manager.
Consistent all the way through.
Yeah. That's right, and that comes again with not having a kind of vision for the club, and I'm sure, and maybe Rangnick is so brilliant that he can do the vision piece and the coaching piece. Maybe touch wood.
Yeah. That's the dream.
My cynicism levels are pretty high.
Mine are tonight. And like I say, I wanted to be positive on this show today, but after watching that Newcastle game, it dissipated me completely. So hopefully after the next one, if we beat someone, then I might be like, yes, this is the dream. Ralph Rangnick, Red Bull United.
All right. So we've got Burnley coming up next. That's going to be pretty. Turf Moor. The joke was always that they were good at Turf Moor, and they're not. They're just not very good. Full stop. They're in the relegation zone now, and I don't know if it wasn't Sean Dyche, who's been in charge of Burnley forever on no resources and one of the smallest budgets in the league. He'd be looking at the boot, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
But he won't because he's Sean Dyche, I assume. Although Burnley have got venture capital or private equity owners now, so the only thing they care about is the cash. That's the job, right? And they've got to be worried if they go down, they're in real trouble financially.
And they've got a massive pile up of games, haven't they? Because I think they've missed 3 now in a row.
3. Watford game was cancelled, Villa game was cancelled, and the Everton game was cancelled. I mean, so they haven't played since the 12th of December. And it looks like it's going ahead Thursday night, this one.
I don't know if it's every single time that's been the opposition. So it might be a case where actually they've been training the whole time and they're actually quite fresh going into that game. God, that'll be the last thing we need. And I mean, Burnley,
they're an odd side. I mean, they're just a throwback, play 2 up front. And on the direct side, you'd say, with Dyche. It feels like they've been playing the same back 4 of Loughton, Tarkowski, me and Taylor forever, right? I mean, wasn't that back 4 together like 10 years ago?
You'd hope that they kind of play into Maguire's hands with pumping long balls into the box, because I mean, at least they're kind of not running at him and making him look like a clown.
Definitely Wood won't. Cornet's Cornet's a bit more interesting, isn't he? He's a bit more dynamic than that if he plays. I'm not sure if he's fit or not, but
feels very un-Dyche-like.
I assume he is. Yeah, very, very. I was really confused about that one because he'd spent the previous season playing at left back, and clearly earlier in his career he was more of a forward. But it's worked out well for him and Burnley. It's not doing much for their goal scoring outside of him. I mean, they got 14 in 15 games this season. I mean, they've got a lot of games in hand, which is part of the reason why they're so down there. But you can't, one win all season for Burnley. It gets to the point where you can't turn that kind of form around.
Yeah, that is crazy. So, but I mean, we've just played the 2 other bottom 2 teams in the last 2 games and looked very
made them look competent, both of them.
Yeah, so I'm not going to write them off too much at the moment.
Yeah, no, I'd like to write them off. There's a few other off words I'd like to say to Sean Dyche. I just don't like him, and I don't like Burnley, and I don't like Burnley's fans. So there's 3 reasons.
He broke a friend of a friend's leg who used to play for Notts County a long time ago when he was playing. So you could maybe use that. You could say like it's a friend of a friend of a friend. Steve Scoffin ended his career.
I don't care how many times removed it is. Yeah. Fine. I mean, that many times removed, I probably do know him. Yeah, so it's a friend of a friend of a friend. Yeah. Anyway, so this is Old Trafford, not Turf Moor. I think I said Turf Moor, didn't I? So Old Trafford, and on Thursday, I think I'm right in saying I just saw the news today. No restrictions being brought in, at least before the new year. So it'll be a full Old Trafford, at least. Might be the last time.
Yeah,
for a while.
Maybe.
See.
I guess with New Year's coming up, they maybe want to get last one hurrah with as many COVID cases into the ether as possible. But
exactly.
Yeah, you never know with this government, to be honest. You don't know what they're planning.
No, I mean, exactly. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about like circuit breakers. And I kind of thought they, in football, that is, they're talking about the wrong thing, because the concept, as I understood it, was that you have some kind of severe lockdown in order to stop the spread. But that's not really the problem in football, and unless like crowds are super spreader events, and we haven't seen the data on that one. But the problem with the Premier League mostly has been the players getting it. 103 cases this week, so
Yeah.
she's a significant proportion of the Premier League playing stock.
Yeah, and I guess you see the vaccination percentage of the league, and it is really low compared to in Serie A and La Liga and stuff. But I guess a lot of it is also just down to the fact that there are a lot of cases in the country, and we're not really doing anything to prevent those cases being like widened, I guess. And I feel like I know a load of people who've got it this time, and I didn't know them I didn't really come across that many people in the first and second or third lockdowns, but this time everyone seems to have it almost but there are kind of positives to take from the negatives as well. Like, it doesn't seem like hospitalizations are going too high at this point. I hope it's not just like there's going to be a lag. And so I guess like the government, to be fair to them, which I don't really always want to be fair to them, maybe are seeing that data, and maybe there is reason to not to go crazy with it. But obviously it's a very complicated and fast moving situation, isn't it? It's very, very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see with football. I mean, the Premier League meeting last week, the clubs basically voted just to carry on, and it appears to be the protocol is that if you have 14 fit players plus a goalkeeper, that the game is going to be on, and you'd have to prove that you don't have that many. I mean, Newcastle today only had 8 players on the bench, and United apparently could have only fielded 7 in the game that was called off against Brighton. So if that's the protocol and it's well understood, well, that's it. They'll put the games on, and we'll see on crowds and whether the government takes action or not. But it doesn't seem like it. I mean, in Scotland, they're being more restrictive. In Wales, they've banned all crowds. In France, they're just moving to a maximum of 5,000 spectators. In Wales, it gets some weird ones. I was just looking, read a piece about Chester. So Chester, obviously in England, playing England. Playing the National League, right? But their ground is actually in Wales. Wow. And so there's some debate about exactly under what authority are they playing or not. Yeah, I mean, you definitely get some weird situations. Rangnick brought it up this week, actually, in his press conference. He said that they're above average, the Premier League average for vaccinations, and that they will take it into consideration when thinking about bringing players in. And I'm not surprised. Because, whatever the politics of this, it's just a risk. And if you're going to spend millions on an asset who's not available, either through illness or protocol, then of course clubs are going to take it into consideration.
Yeah, sure. I think Klopp said similar as well, didn't he? I think Rangnick and Klopp are quite aligned with this, and it is a real difficult one, because like you can in certain part of you can understand, like, if you're a footballer and you have like a bad side effect to the vaccination, like it feels like shooting yourself in the foot for doing it. But then on the flip side, is the vaccination reaction going to be any worse? Is it going to be any worse than if you actually got COVID? Very, very unlikely.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at the data. No,
exactly. Yeah, so, it's not. But like,
yeah. Joshua Kimmich, I thought was kind of interesting, because he was a very prominent sort of basically anti-vaxxer or vaccine reticent, let's be fair to him. And he had basically a long form of long COVID and some problems with his lungs. And so now he's sort of been transformed into a campaigner.
I know, the irony of that almost feels like it was a PR stunt. Like, it was so like stark. Yeah. Like, that was a huge win for the vaccine. The vaccine crowd, and hopefully that is just going to be, and hopefully like Rangnick goes in there and if he is very, very forthright with it, and like the same way Klopp is, and I think pretty much every Liverpool player is vaccinated by all accounts, and hopefully Rangnick does go in there and says that is going to be a thing for United, because the last thing we need is players dropping out week after week,
right?
Especially when they're running fixtures.
Yeah, at Leeds, the club doctor there has been fairly interested. Should we put it right? So he's been very informational with the players.
Yeah, I think was it Leeds or another club? Like, their owners had been it might have been Leicester or one of the clubs that are owned by Far East Consortium. The ownership and stuff were so kind of hot on this disease. I know it was Wolves. It was Wolves in January of the first year when it came around. They were so hot on it. They had a meeting with the team, and Wolves have got a very high vaccination rate because they've kind of known about this for so long, and they kind of haven't let the misinformation just fester within the team and kind of create a vacuum for this kind of misinformation to just be spread around the football club. Whereas with United, has someone really been that authority to kind of sit the players down like that? Not to draw parallels, but it feels like almost symptomatic of the way that United are at the moment. We're kind of such a rebel on the pitch, and it maybe is a case of with the players in the vaccination rate as well, but that is obviously a huge speculation.
Well, anyway, looks like the game's going ahead Thursday, so touch wood anyway. I'm not going to ask you for a prediction. We did 11 years of predictions, so we were crap at it. So yeah, I can drop new era. I can drop that. I'm not going to predict a flowing performance from United. I mean, Burnley are good at least breaking up and spoiling the game, so I'm sure they'll do that. I don't think it's going to be pretty as a result, and the onus will be on United to attack and United to take the game, and this is where United have had real problems and try and connect all the pieces of the team. We'll see in the 3 days whether Rangnick's able to work some of that magic. Yeah,
it'd be nice to just get some confidence going in the team as well, get a couple of early goals and get the players kind of buying into the manager, maybe the pattern of play a little bit, and just finding confidence of themselves as well, because that is, from all appearances today, and that seems to be severely lacking. So yeah, a couple of early goals and then turn off watching, John, and maybe next time I come on, I'll be a little bit more positive as well, because I feel like I'm very, very negative today. So apologies all around. It's been hard to be positive after that Newcastle.
It was a hard watch today. I mean, it was just a hard watch. We were chatting on WhatsApp. I was with the old crowd and a couple of other groups, and it's just really hard to stay positive about it. So, just one of those games, and there's been a lot this season. So, let's just say we're playing one of the worst teams in the country in the league coming up. Good opportunity to get a win, depending on how things shake out. I mean, United could end up fifth after the next round of games. Exciting. That's what we're all about, this club.
Yes, Europa League.
Chasing fifth. All righty, Tom. Well, I guess that's it from us, unless there's anything else from you. And I think we're scheduled to chat again in a week's time or so, something like that.
Perfect. Pleasure. Thank you.
Been great having you on, and here's to a few more, and just a few more wins, please. Bring the good fortune.
Yeah, that'll be great.